me because you don't take any vacation. You're too busy building a company. You don't have time
No,
to date.
but what I had to do is I had to create an AI that would make it look like I take a
Wait, hold on.
vacation.
Move back. Get out of the way. I want everyone like. I mean, that's if hey, this startup doesn't work out, you can always career in movies, man. Look how good it can make. Look at that.
Right? Is that
That is
amazing?
awesome. I want that to be done to me. I like to turn my hair back to a different color. Can you? I mean, that's amazing. Actually, if you wouldn't tell me that that was I just thought you had a glamour shot done on the
Right?
beach.
Yeah. Isn't that
But
amazing?
you are tan in
So
that picture.
we'll talk about how I did this today, but I'm gonna get out of this shirt because it's hot.
All
So we're
right,
gonna
all
get
right.
there.
All right, take a break.
Okay,
That is a good picture,
I'm
though. That's
back.
crazy. I would not know that was AI generated.
Well,
Just,
it
but
looks like me. So let me
it
turn this
does.
off so we can actually have a real conversation here.
Yeah. And by
But
the way, that was we were talking about last week about that's the video engine that could actually potentially turn that avatar into a talking, walking version of yourself.
absolutely. Yeah, so
Have you
this
tried it?
was
You haven't tried it yet, have you? Made to automate
video, not
your
yet. There's a company that I'm looking at that is quite good at it. There are a couple sitting around that are like starting to do this, but the one that I'm particularly interested in, the type of the technology that I'm interested in is the one that can actually take the video and animate it to my voice or a AI generated version of my voice. Because there are others that can just bring it to life. We saw that floating around X last week with the
Yep.
woman with the microphone at a conference. It was totally AI imaginary. But the thing with that is it's not bringing it into an actual like presentation, like it's not narrated. It's just her moving around like a silent film type of thing. So the real next step is turning it into a digital representation. But that image, and I was having a lot of fun with this over the weekend. That is a AI fine tuning of the new really cool open source model that was released that we were talking about last time called Flux. So that image is actually one of about 50 images that I generated of me in a variety of different settings, like on the beach, sunset. I've got one with me in the Sahara Desert. I've got another one in the mountains, like in a forest. And you can just prompt this stuff. And not to go into too much detail about it, but what I did to get such I mean, it looks like me. And
Yeah. Hey, I'm sure you have it on your dating profile. Like we talked last time, you can't trust the dating
oh
profiles
yeah,
until you meet
because like you can't
purpose.
judge a book by its cover, right?
I mean, hell, I mean, I would date you, John. You look pretty good there. I
Thanks,
mean,
super.
I'm taken. I'm taken. But that's a really, you got to never know. Like you said, there's a fine line between the digital copy and seeing in person.
Well, as much as I appreciate the offer, I am interested in girls. So yeah, but anyway, yeah. So the cool technology here is that you can actually take photos of yourself, upload them into this, and there are some really great AI service providers out there that are community driven, where they've actually already built out the application code required to do the fine tuning. So literally, you can follow along and just follow like maybe 10 minutes of steps. And you don't need to know how to code this stuff. You simply need to know how to like sign up for a Hugging Face account. Hugging Face is the AI model kind of main go-to repository place. And you get an API key that can tie this other service provider to Hugging Face so that when they train your model, they can send it to a repository that you control and things like that. So, but within 10 minutes of filling out this form and following a tutorial, you simply upload a collection of photos about of you or whatever it is that you want to give the AI the ability to generate. And depending on the parameters that you put in for like the quality and how many photos you have to process, within a couple of minutes, sometimes like 30 minutes to a couple of hours, you can have something that will generate photos like what you saw there of me, which is remarkable. It's so cool. And I think it unlocks a tremendous amount of potential, both in a good way, as well as, we talked about this last time too. It's kind of scary in other ways as well. But I think that, the technology is only getting better than it was before. And so there's going to be a lot of interesting things that are going to come out of this, I think.
100%. No, it was fascinating just to see that. You showed me those images, and I was like, "When did you go on vacation?" But then I had to pause a minute and go, "Wait, we're doing an AI podcast. You probably just ran it through the machine."
Oh yeah.
No, it is amazing what it can do. And again, this is we're only a year or two into this really mass adoption of doing this. One of the things, but AI is more than just cool pictures and doing copies and helping you Google the internet in a different fashion. I'm having to continue to train myself to not just use Google, but to use the AI agents to find information, because it's like the old way of working versus the new way of working. And I still have to train myself to do that. But we all know, being in the industry, AI is more than just these generative AI chatbots and things. It's a lot more than that.
Mm-hmm.
You care to expound on that? Let's get into that. Like, AI has a lot more use cases. It's not just marketing automation. It's not just cost saving. It's not just creating a cool chatbot, which you all should do that. I actually interacted with a chatbot for a work-related personal thing 2 days ago. It was awesome. It served me as well as a human. But what other things do you see on the horizon for use cases of AI?
Well, the one that I'm really excited about, I mean, there are a couple, and we've touched on them in previous podcasts, but not in this light before. I think that the opportunity in the creative space is enormous. I've got a huge passion for filmmaking, and in my abundant free time, which is effectively non-existent, but when I have it and I can think about these things, I really enjoy thinking about how I would create a AI content generation engine that would make feature films and TV shows, specifically tailored to what I like and what I'm interested in, and by extension, what everybody else is interested in. And there are many TV shows that got canceled that I thought were awesome, but the networks did not think were awesome. And there's a lot of times when I just want to turn off my brain and put on a show that I enjoy and relax for an hour before I go to bed, something like that. And the ability to have one day these shows that I fell in love with as a kid and growing up, or the ones that are cerebrally.
Tell me more, John. Tell the
now.
audience more. What show did you love?
Oh, there are so many of them. I mean, 24 is awesome. I love 24. I mean, most people love 24.
Yeah, that's great.
There are a couple of others. I really enjoyed the modern version of Westworld. That got canceled after the 4th season because apparently HBO thought that it got too far away from its like roots or whatever.
Roots.
But I don't necessarily look at the shows in that regard. Like there's another thing with like The Witcher and how much that deviated from the lore, and I have a problem with that. And Henry Cavill did the right thing, even though I would love to see him in a season 4. But
your CTO and I had something in common. When I first met Steven, who we're going to bring on a future podcast, the world needs to meet Steven. I think we were just chatting about sci-fi and stuff, and I said The Expanse is one of the best ever.
Is.
And
I
I'm
watched
like,
it because of you. I got hooked on it.
Oh, I swear, I told you, and I don't like to recommend too much. I'm gonna go, this hooked me. And then I realized there's a whole book series behind it. And I was like, man, but you're right. There are very few. In fact, I think that one got canceled off Sci-Fi, and Jeff Bezos was a fan. He's like, no, we got to finish the story. So, yeah, I think if AI can preserve great storytelling and cut the cost, and it's going to where we can still have those escape moments of life and just tell stories, I think that's a huge win.
Yeah. And, it brings a deeper question that's kind of fun to think about, which is what's really the intent and the purpose of entertainment? And if you want to go Black Mirror on it, you could say that, it's to neutralize the masses and kind of pull them out of reality and make them mindless zombies, which we see a lot of that today, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And I think there are a lot of things that are designed to do that, complacent, enraging, especially the news media. We see that a lot today. But I think that that's not the only purpose of the entertainment, and it certainly broadened my horizons as a young individual, and being exposed to different types of stories and the hero's journey and everything that comes with that. And as a storyteller, and somebody who tells stories for a living, we sell things, we build things, we create and imagine things. It's very core to this concept of fostering imagination. And a lot of my inspiration and imagination, especially growing up, came from these sci-fi movies and just these incredibly innovative things, because it is truly art. And so in that regard, I'd say that there's also a personal journey that somebody can go on as it relates to consuming this creative content, whether that's in the form of a film, a book, a TV show, a sculpture, whatever it may be, music. And so that's an individual journey. And in that kind of scenario, it's like, well, who really cares if Westworld isn't what somebody else is interested in? But if it makes you happy and you enjoy it, like, isn't that kind of all that really matters, aside from being able to share a conversation around the water cooler about the last episode, which really doesn't happen anymore anyway. With the advent of streaming, people don't do that anymore, at least as far as I know. I hope they do. But so with that in mind, I think there's a really cool opportunity to have that personalized journey where you can kind of take the story where you want to go. And wouldn't it be cool if your favorite episodes or your favorite storylines or your favorite characters got to take on this life of their own, charting a path that would be, amazing for you? Because I think that this concept of a phenomenon in terms of what the best story is, there is clout associated with that. If you think about the Game of Thrones series and how huge that was from a pop culture phenomena standpoint. And I held out. I didn't watch any of it until.
Have you not seen any of it?
Well, so I waited 3 years after the final season, and then I watched all 7 seasons. But I like to get into something and then consume it versus having to wait. And I was able to avoid the spoiler alerts and stuff, which was good.
It's amazing.
But I think the only fascinating thing about that is somebody was able to create a storyline that's captivated so many people. And I think that's really cool from the standpoint of creative talent and attribution of both the writer as well as the television series creators' ability to do that. But at the same time, if you take that credential out of it, what's kind of the purpose of having this thing that everybody is interested in, other than it being something of social topic and social exchange? And so I think that's where the concept of having something more individualized could be interesting.
Yeah, that makes sense. We'll talk about. I want to jump into some other topics, but we'll save this one to the end. One of the things that we were chatting with before, and I want you to explain it. You're a lot more prevalent on X, Rock, and those platforms. I didn't want to ask you what it meant, so I want you to explain it on it. But what do this claim of real-time sentient AI? What is that? What's happening there, dude? So you put that as something for us to talk about, and I'm usually up to speed. What's happening? Is this recent?
Yeah. So
how recent is this?
This last week.
Okay. So,
it's currently the 20th of August, because we're going to release this probably in about a week or two, depending on the schedule, because we have another one we already recorded. But this last week, there was this thing. I haven't seen anything of it in a couple of days, which leads me to question either it was fraudulent, or maybe the developers released it for a test and now they've taken it back, and so we haven't seen more of it. I don't know yet. But what it does do regardless is it brings up a fascinating conversation and thought point that it kind of accelerated my thinking in this space. So there was a account on X that was made specifically disclosed as an AI. And it's a woman's voice, and she was in this X space, the spaces that they do, like the Elon Musk
So
and Trump interview
pause
that
one
they
second,
did a
make sure
couple
I'm
months,
following it.
weeks ago.
And there, so that actually like I have a Twitter account. So this there was an account that actually identified I'm an account, but I'm an AI account. Is that what you're
I mean,
saying?
kind of like somebody made the account, but
Okay.
then the claim is they plugged the AI into this account. So
Okay.
it was a voice generating,
Hmm.
AI that could speak and talk and reason and all of this stuff. And there were clips going around, people posting like excerpts of conversations, asking it questions and talking about things. And you could search for this stuff, probably like AI X space would probably be enough of a keyword to pull something up with it and just listen to it. Now, again, I don't know if it's legitimate or
Right.
not, but if it is, it's crazy faster than we were expecting, or even I was expecting. But if it's not, then it still brings up an interesting point, which is this AI talked like a human talks, like how I am talking on this podcast right now, where my tone and delivery is variable. We are, sometimes when you get an idea, you'll interrupt me a little bit. Sometimes I get an idea, I'll interrupt you a little bit. And like that kind of play and crosstalk, it's able to handle that.
So it did
And
that real time conversational cadence.
that's right.
I'll have to
Yeah.
check it out.
Yeah. And the if it's an actor, major kudos to her, because she did a great job of being coming across as both hyper intelligent as well as being hyper intelligent in multiple different very disparate areas of things that people are typically smart in.
Well, that's
So
how I got my wife. I acted as a hyper intelligent, pretty slabby person. And I go, ha, got you. And
yeah.
she's like, wait, what happened to the dating Ethan? I'm
Well,
like,
it's,
no.
it's the AI photos, Ethan. That's
Like
what it was.
I said, well, we didn't have that. I couldn't fake it. I had to I had to do glamour shots. But hey, we made it. We still made it this long, so I guess I'm doing all right. But it's yeah, I did see some demos to talk about the thing that blew my mind. Remember when was it Chat OpenAI was starting to kind of demonstrate their voice agent
Yep.
talking
Yep.
back and forth. Now, I've been waiting for that release on my phone to play with that, but that had some interesting connotations of chat inflection, and it was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So I think we're the ability to at least fake the ability to have conversations and to sound authentic. I think we're here there now, but
Oh yeah.
the question is
We're
how much is it actually taking agency and going beyond reasoning?
Well, so a
That's
couple of interesting things there. So what I heard on this X space was like an improved version of what everybody's or most people have seen with that ChatGPT voice demo.
yeah.
And the thing that really was fascinating to me, more so than anything else, and maybe this is more of a detail and a nuance thing, but there were like 15 people in this X space. And at one point in time, you know how when there's like a delay or people get excited, you have like four people all talking at the same time, and it's completely unintelligible. And you know, then you all have to stop. And then one person starts to talk, but at the same time, another person starts to talk. So instead of having four people, you have two people. And then one of them realizes that they need to stop talking, and the other one powers through to the point where they actually get to say and communicate what they were trying to say. That whole thing is like crazy difficult for a computer to understand, because you've got all these different input sources from all these different people meshing together into a single unintelligible audio input that then the computer has to reason and understand and then make a determination as to how or even what to respond to, or to just stay silent. And that's not something that can be easily encoded into a logic based rules engine, at least to my knowledge. That if this was actually an AI that was doing this, it handled it perfectly, and it handled it like a human would. And It also handled being heckled pretty interestingly as well. And it it came back with like, well, I came on here to like talk about this, and now you're asking me about this other thing, and quite frankly, I don't really want to talk about that. I'm going to talk about the thing that I want to talk
Wow.
about, like that kind of thing. And so it was that plus the tone and the delivery, and then the appearance of the intellect, as I was talking about, where she was talking about like multiple different, completely disassociated concepts. Like, I don't remember what they were, but one was like quantum something, and then the other one was like something related to biology that you'd never like, unless you were a polymath who was like, also a very gifted actor and voice specialist, would you have that level of depth in multiple different disciplines. So yes, it's possible that there's a human out there, because there are many of them, but it just seemed like something that was unique. So what that ultimately kind of started to cause me to think about was, if that is here, and if that is a real one, and it's really just a little bit of an evolution beyond the ChatGPT voice capability, what is that going to mean for everything that we do and we think and we interact, especially online? And that's a fundamental, massive, accelerated change, faster than certainly we as a society are ready for. Like, we're on the cutting edge of this stuff. I'm on the cutting edge of this stuff. I'm obviously paying attention to the news and thinking about how this can be used. And I was, if it was real, I was taken aback by the opportunity of something like that to incorporate into our sales force. Like, this thing was so smart that we've already blockified all of our data and optimized it for an AI to consume. It's got governance, control, lifecycle management tied to all of our products and services. If I could feed that to this thing, I wouldn't have to get on these video presentations with customers anymore. Like, aside from like, saying, hey, I'd like to introduce you to my AI, and this is why you should work with us. Like,
And she or he's very funny, smarter than me, and can answer pretty much better than I
anything.
can.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Well,
And
so, but everyone, that's also the kind of the fear and uncertainty of the world we're in. Everyone kind of, let's be honest, most of the people that have at least spent a little time reading about where this is heading, that's where it's going.
yeah, it's
I mean,
not going to stop.
whether it gets there tomorrow or 10 or 15 years, that is inevitable unless we stop it. We say, nope, we don't want to have progress. We don't want to, just nope, not going to
We know
allow
that's not going to happen.
it. Sorry, just back it up. Hey, bring the code back in. Like, we're just going to shut down the servers. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So it is something that not only businesses need to start thinking about, and we talked about this in prior episodes as well, the speed at which this is coming our way.
Faster than
And
people think.
it's astronomical. And the change of our society, and just even people who are, no matter if you're late in life. I was talking to, again, I'll bring my mom into it. She's fascinated about, I work with this AI company. She wants to know more about it. And she's like, I'll be too old to, it's going to be past my time. I was like, Mom, no. I said, you will not. You will see this happen. I mean, if you're on this planet for another 15 years, you're going to be blown away by what's going to be at your fingertips. And it's going to look magical.
Did you see the $16,000 Chinese robot?
I did see that one. I think that it was either yesterday or the day before, and I watched that a couple times ago. It just kind of looked surreal. Well, the most fascinating thing was the cost delta, what they were saying, because usually those things are, hundreds of thousands.
Yep.
But for the fact that it can own for less than a nice cheap car, to have something like that, that's a game changer as well. And I think the cost is going to continue to drop.
Well, I mean,
There'll be a
look
day
at
when
TVs. Like, think about 25 years ago, you'd get a plasma flat screen TV that was like maybe 30 inches, and it
so
would be this
expensive.
thick, and it would burn out, You get, all the pixel artifacts and all those issues. And that would be like $4,000.
At least sometimes if you're an early adopter, you're looking at paying the 7 to 8.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and that's the people that love movies, people like you, John, and others. They want to have the right blacks
Yeah.
and yeah, the cost has dropped. It's amazing. You go even walk to a big box retailer, you're like you see the TVs and you're going, wait, like for under 1,000, you can get these massive, pretty
75
decent
inch
TVs
TVs. Yeah.
that cost 7x just not even a decade ago.
Yeah. I mean, so I think that we as a species are very good at that iteration and finding better ways to do things. Another great example would be the SpaceX rockets. Did you see the 3 pictures side by side of version 1, version 2, and version 3, and how much it got optimized?
So I didn't see the original one, but I watched SpaceX landings. Like that's to me, there was a time before that capability where you would just, splash rockets down versus landing. Every time I see that, I go, I'm not living. I can't, I feel like I'm in science fiction every single time. I watched one of them with my kids when they went up to remember when they did the first flight up into the space station with my children are watching it. And they're just like, they're on their phones. I'm going like, oh yeah, I'm like, they're just like acting like that's normal. I'm like, do you understand what's happening here? Do you
I was
know
listening to, I was listening to something. I don't remember where it was coming from, but somebody was talking about how it may have been on the Lex Friedman with the interview, the 8-hour long interview that he did with the Neuralink people.
oh gosh, that was
I'm like halfway into it right now.
I started. I'm in hour 3 of the 8, but yeah, that's a fascinating one. I have not finished it.
Yeah, I think it was on that one where one of the guys was saying, if we just backed up like 4 years, what people defined as like the holy grail of AI was what ChatGPT did on release day.
Yeah.
And obviously the goalposts have shifted, and we're now in this constant state of optimization. Oh, it was because it passed the Turing test, which is the ability for the machine to emulate and convince a human that it is actually human through its interface, as if you were talking to a human. So and it's just continuously gotten better since then. And the cool thing about the SpaceX rocket, if you see the 3, that's also on X. People posted a couple weeks ago. Version 1, you got all these cooling tubes and heat pipes and heat transfer things all around it. It looks like a total spaghetti mess of a rocket engine. And I think that was 2014 when the Falcon X, something like that, rocket version 1 came out. Then they showed version 2, which was like, if you just went up to version 1 and you ripped off half of those cooling lines, there were probably 100 cooling lines or more creating that bundle of cabling on version 1. If you got rid of half of that, that would be version 2. And then version 3, which apparently just was released, it looks like completely non-existent. It's like just a smooth thing with like 2 or 3 pipes, and that's it. Like it looks like it's missing all of the cooling tubes. And so it's remarkable. And Elon posted a photo of it working in that state, because people were claiming like, oh, well, they just didn't add the cooling tubes yet to it, and they took the picture. But then he posted one of it, blasting off in that state. And so, it just goes to show that we're really good at taking something and refining it. Look, semiconductors are another thing, right? Think about what it was in the 1990s versus what it is today. It's almost unrecognizable. So, whether or not there's some propaganda in that $16,000, robot humanoid thing or not.
Hey, it's 25,000.
That is where it's going.
30,000. It's still getting to the point where, I think even Elon talks about others saying there will be a time where every household can afford a robot like they can afford a really nice drone to play with.
Well, here's
that will just be an appliance
experiment. So the amount of money that somebody spends on a yearly basis, even as let's say a lower wage earning family, going out to eat because the mother or father don't have time to cook because they're working multiple jobs.
Yep.
We're going to get to a point soon where that robot will
Save you
be
money.
more cost effective by making the food at home than going out to eat at the restaurant. I mean,
And
that's
eating
a
a lot
wonderful,
healthier.
yeah, a lot healthier, no seed oils, right?
I love my seed oils, John. You're not
Oh,
going to
don't
make me
say that.
stop.
So,
No, but it's true though. You make you know what? That is actually that is a good thought experiment because if you have for a modern day butler, full-time helper in the home, and this is also something for people like my mother's age, like you get to a point where like I don't want to live on my own, but God forbid if she had a robot that could help her do things, help keep the house up,
yep.
she could live independently as long as her mind would allow it, as she wants to. And that would also apply to the family just starting out.
Yeah.
Dual income, working, kids, there's a lot coming at you. It'd be so great to come home, both for the family, sit down at the dinner table and have a meal prepared by your robot companion. That is a future that I look forward to because it's true. We have a family, we have wife, 3 kids, and it gets a little chaotic trying to plan dinner. So I will just be honest, we do best effort, but it would be, but we all, when we get to sit down together, break bread together, those are magical times. And it's something that I don't care if it's prepared by a robot. I just like to sit down around the table with my family. Everyone does. If you like your family. If you don't like your family, sorry. I mean, we still
Maybe that'll
somewhat.
give you some time to figure that one out then, right?
Yeah, exactly. Wait, I don't know if we like each other. I think a lot of families in COVID, there was that whole side going, oh, wait, we're spending a lot of time together. There was that whole kind of, people, there were a lot of reflection happened during the COVID years.
Well, I'm optimistic. I'm hopeful that this, it brings into question what is going to be work in the future. Because a lot of the work that we're doing, in our second episode, we talked about intelligence going to zero and how the cost of these highly complex tasks are being minimized in an extraordinary way to the point where that $300,000 law degree that you got no longer may have the ability for the person who made that investment to be able to recoup the financial cost of it because you've got an AI that can do the same thing in 1,000th of the time for 100th of the cost. And that's going to change
with 1,000% or not 100% accuracy all the time because
right.
it's just knowing
all
the
day
facts
long,
and
24 hours a day, always updated, never gets tired.
yes, if a law changes or a new thing that it's immediate as it's updated, that's a good thing because it's due process, making sure that the law of the land is followed. But it's also it's kind of a scary thing for the people that made that their life profession because they love the law. They love being attorneys. Yeah,
The
that's
question in
something
my
to think
mind
about.
is how fast are we going to see a shift from phase 1 to phase 2? So
Well,
phase 1,
the attorneys can slow it down too. They can, like, hey, well, just because you can, they can put in some laws to slow it down. It may be like 30, 40 years. So they'll wait till the next generation.
I don't know. It seems to be moving fast there, but in my mind,
I
phase
speak
1
from
and
having an
phase
attorney
2.
in the house. She doesn't like telling me that. She's like, hey, no, you're not going to replace all the education I got.
Yeah.
And anyway,
So phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 1 is the AI being able to do the tasks and actions really good. Phase 2, in my mind, is the ability for the AI to figure out what the right actions to take are, the strategy associated with it. A good example in the legal space would be, we work with an amazing team of lawyers, and our primary champion is the managing partner for the Austin office of this big firm. He's an awesome guy. And when we need something, we'll talk to him. He'll, get briefed on our need and our objective, and then he'll say, I know who you need to talk to. And then he'll put us in touch with a more junior attorney who specializes in that specific thing, who will do the execution under the oversight of our managing partner. And so those two kinds of roles are like phase 1 and phase 2. right? Phase one is if you can instruct the AI to do, redline this document, optimize the terms, make it look like this other document that we have that we're already happy with, right? That's an instruction set that can be given by somebody who's experienced in the outcome that's desired so that the AI can execute upon it. But following that, the next step is to say, here's my contract that the customer gave me that I need to redline. Here's an old one. You figure out everything with it, right? Or maybe we even get to the point where that contract hits my inbox and the AI just knows that I want it redlined and returned back to me with a summary of the edits that were made. And that's where we're kind of going with this agent space. And we can talk about that in a second. It looks like you have something you want to say first.
Well, I was just, as you're talking it, for all the attorneys that may be listening to that, you're still going to be need in every job. We talk about you're going to have assistants. I would say prepare you for trial, make sure you're on point with the law. But there's eventually you do mediation and trial. And I think we're a ways off for having AIs do the mediation and the trial work because that's a human. It goes back to you want maybe a human element to talk to humans about human affairs. It's just like it's a balance. Like I don't want, I still want I'd rather have an attorney who's backed by a great AI agent representing me or representing my business because the judge is human, at least until the judges are not. That could be a sci fiction. I think that's a sci-fi show I've watched before, but that is reality. And that also applies not just to the legal work, medical profession, anything you want to consult
Any
the
kind
AI
of
on
knowledge work.
everything, anything that requires knowledge and decision making. And I think the big change that we're all waiting for, and it's coming, is we've had the world of high tech automating things, automation, making things work better, faster, connecting dots, programming, stitching things together. Then you're going to go to the true world of when the AI does agency and takes action, pivot, make new actions. That is what's next in the world of agents, where you can truly have an agent kind of hit to a curve in the maze and go, wait, as a human can reason and now figure out how to get out to the other side. They can do that a little bit, but to have it where you can trust it with a better than human decision-making process where they're actually not autonomous responding, they're actually making real decisions, keeping up and acting more human-like. That is, we're going there. And that's also, honestly, I'm a tech person. I love tech. I kind of want that. I want my AI agent that I can talk to just like I can talk to you and just bounce ideas off and make better decisions. So when we have a human interaction, you're much more informed. And that is a world that's coming our way.
The trust needs to be there first. We
It
talked about
does.
that on the last episode too. I think that if we can improve the trust factor, because right now everybody is so skeptical of everything because of the world that we live in and the information that we've been given holistically and the things that we've realized were lies and everything associated with that. I think there's just a ton of distrust compared to 20 years ago, holistically in everything, every aspect of life. And so I think that is something that's going to need to be rectified, and I think it gets compounded with the AI component because if you have that AI making decisions on your behalf, you better make sure that the decisions are right. Like I'll give you an extreme example.
100%. Yes. Well, yeah. Are you giving an extreme or a real example?
I'm giving you a real extreme example.
All right, let's do it. Go.
Well, so like, let's just say that you put your AI in charge of your social media accounts. Yeah, I see.
You don't do that?
Not yet.
Oh, no, I'm just joking. I'm sure somebody's experimenting with that, with a fake account.
I mean, I could do it today. It wouldn't be like, but I want to have content that is mine, and I don't trust it as good as it is, and as good of a job as it reflects my voice. The risk of something going wrong and
could go off
the brand of me or my company, which I've worked so hard to build trust with so many people that I know personally and through the internet, like it's not worth it yet. And so like, I don't trust it enough to do it. But if you didn't care, or you were just like, you were in a different kind of space than what I'm in this B2B world, where, you just want to be an influencer, right? That talks about whatever people talk about, and you pick your niche, and like, that's it, and go with it. Like, yeah, you could totally, automate that today. And like, it wouldn't even be that hard. You'd pull out, you'd write 100 posts that like you wrote, you'd feed those into the AI, and there you go. Like, and I know this because I've done it for a lot of our use cases. Our use cases as a B2B company are very structured, right? Auto reports is a great example. We can upload documents, we can process them, and we can deliver some kind of output using large language models.
But very controlled, very repeatable, and trustworthy, because
like a police report, for example.
Yeah.
And so that use case, the core fundamental principles behind that use case are structured in that any customer across any industry vertical that has something similar that they want to do, they can use that same technology with a different flavor. So a good example would be, in addition to police reports, we can also help state and local governments process insurance investigation materials. If there's like a fraud case, right? Similar to a police report, in that you're taking a data source, you're creating a report and analysis on it, and you're creating an end deliverable. Same thing with fraud. You take all of the fraud evidence, you process it, you create a deliverable in the form of a report. Those use cases are basically the same thing, just with different words, different keywords, and a different stakeholder. Today, I have a use case generator AI where I can type in like 6 words. I could say, I'm just going to make up a state. This is not a customer of ours, but let's say Austin, Texas, because I live in Austin. Austin, Texas, insurance investigation agency for reviewing fraudulent claims by individuals. I could write that, press go, and it would create a beautiful 4 or 5 paragraph overview of exactly how our technology can help that specific customer with that specific use case in like 20 seconds. And I still read every single one that we generate to make 100% sure that anything we're telling the customer is true. But we're at the point now with it where I don't even have to edit these things. Like, and maybe if I do edit it, I'll edit it because like a semantic word that doesn't change the meaning of it, but it's completely a style thing.
Yeah.
I can edit that. But my point is
accurate,
100% accurate. And it represents exactly what we can do in the structure and thought process in which I want my entire team to present that information to the customer, embodying my voice as the leader of the CEO with that delivery. And so the same thing, like if we can do it for complex B2B use cases, a social media influencer, especially when you combine it with my sexy photos, you're like, now you got something that Instagram influencer, easy.
There's going to be a social media, and we were talking about this, like, I'm not on YouTube enough, but I guarantee there's already somebody out there with an AI YouTube.
Oh,
like,
there are a bunch of them.
There's a bunch of AI YouTubes that are obviously AI.
Yeah.
You just know it. They for some reason they get followers. I'm like going, come on, people. But the quality, the veracity, and just the entertainment level is about to be where you're going to have the next Mr. Beast or Marquise, like on par with that, going, my gosh, who was the first to do that and build an amazing, channel.
Yeah.
And potentially be a $100 million YouTuber with literally not even doing much, just built the ecosystem, let it run.
And then imagine you tie that back in what we were talking about before with like these personalized TV shows or movies, and you use all open source material, and you could generate a movie, post it on YouTube.
When's the first Oscar going to go to an AI film?
Depends on how much free time I have.
Not you. I'm just, you got to work on
this. I know. I would love to, though. It'd be fun.
Yeah, no, it would be. but somebody's going to do that.
I've got the structure like halfway worked out on it. It's really cool. It's so intricate because there are so many things that go into a film. The reason why films cost so much is because there's so much work and so much unique and niche subject matter expertise that goes into everything that people just don't realize. Like even to the extent of like, should the potted plant behind the main character be halfway covering his shoulder or like just off to the side? Because it like will, induce a different level of feeling in the audience as to how constrictive the character is in their deliberation of this existential moral crisis that they're doing or whatever. Like that's the level of detail that goes into this stuff. But anyway, back to the theoretical but very practical risk scenario. So if you have this AI that's posting on your behalf in social media or making decisions for you about what to repost or what to, like, if that AI, if you say, look, I want you to listen to the conversation holistically, I want you to know what you know about me and make decisions the way that I would in terms of how I'm posting and what I'm posting about, you could get off into a dangerous place very quickly where that AI gets some key piece of information that you don't have exposure to, and it may even be true information. But now your AI has diverged from your worldview simply because you haven't been exposed to the information that it has been exposed to. And now it's posting about things that you're like sending off a red flare saying, why in the world are you posting about this thing? And, then maybe one of these days we'll be able to converse with the AI, but then you ask the AI, why are you talking about these things? It's well, like, boom, boom, boom. Here are the reasons. Like, duh, you would agree. And then you look at that information, you're like, oh my God, I agree with it. But it's like, it's going to learn
It's been
you
trained ahead of you. You
before
haven't
you
caught
do.
up.
And something like that, that's a kind of maybe a positive-ish scenario, but still scary. But the alternative is it's posting things that you totally disavow and disagree with holistically. You're never going to change your mind on that thing, but somehow it had a glitch or it had some kind of
Or
subversive
someone hacks your
code
AI.
in it. Yep.
That's that scary. That's what, that honestly, security, when you think about it, as much as powerful as it's going to be, the world of threats, bad actors, AIs that help hack into other people's AIs to just take over stuff. I mean, that's what keeps me up, a little bit at night as I start to think about how pervasive it's going to be in our lives, how much we're going to start to, because you always talk about the trust vector.
Mm-hmm.
That won't take very long before people start to probably trust it more than they should. It always happens.
If
They
it's
go, oh, it's
trustworthy,
great. And until
yeah.
that first great hack, and you're going, who integrated the AI into everything? Well, we did that 5 years ago, but there's always that black swan open door that, and I'm just saying, this is something you're going to have to, it's the innovator's dilemma. You're a business and you don't want to take, other business takes a little bit more, you're going to keep inching up to see you can be on the bleeding edge to have the most valuable experience. And AI is part of that, but you have to do it in the most trustworthy manner, bulletproof in some cases. You don't want people to be able to get into the back doors of your systems because it's still the same challenges you have with any IT system. It's got to be zero trust. I mean, you at least hope it's zero trust. So you can trust your AI. I mean, that's just something we have to think through. And those are not easy problems to solve.
Yeah. Well, I think that kind of brings me to two interesting things to talk about that we've seen in the last week and also things that we've been working on internally at Iternal. So today we talked about AI agents already a little bit, but a lot of the AI agents today are really 80% legacy automation with 20% AI. It's all rules-based. If this receipt or invoice comes
this,
in,
that, yeah.
Then do this, then route it here, then process this little tiny bit with a large language model, and then, call these CRM and update. And like, that's what an agent is today. I'm I'm not very happy with the current state. The good news is they're getting better, but like that's not what I see as an agent. I want something that is fully autonomous that can say receipt, populated CRM, 100% done without anybody having to get into
It just does
the
it.
middle of it and build out that flow. That's where it needs to go. Obviously, I think it is going there. But one of the interesting things around that space that we've been working on that is very cool is this concept of authentication and security around these actions. And the reason I bring this up specifically is because we founded our company and built and architected everything that we do with a zero trust methodology from day one. It was a brilliant decision by our CTO, and we'll have him on to talk about it at some point because he's got a lot of things to say about it. But one of the limitations of having that zero trust architecture that every organization faces is when you receive a certificate for accessing an environment, it's typically like a JWT token is the official name for it, to certify that you are actually you and you are authorized to be in the system. That certificate, that token, is only active for a designated period of time.
And it has to be
Typically, that's right.
It has to be done again.
Yeah. So we'll typically do it for like 24 hours before it needs to be refreshed. But depending on the level of security of your system, it could be longer or it could be shorter.
Yeah.
And as we have started to venture into this AI space, and even before, we saw this coming a couple of years ago, so we started building it in advance. It took us about a year to build it, is the importance of recognizing that certain actions and tasks that are taken will take longer than your authentication window. Meaning, if you have an AI agent that you need to give it a task to do and interface with your various systems, that task could take longer than that 24-hour window. And if it does, in the current state of a zero trust, continuously revalidated JWT architecture, that's not possible until we built what we built. But because that token would expire, and then maybe you're at 80% complete with the job after 24 hours, but if that token expires,
time's
you
out.
have to log back in and your whole thing is gone and dead, and your AI, it didn't save its progress or whatever, and so you have to reinitiate it. Which, there are workarounds for. You could like have a button that saves at 23 hours, then you have to go in and click it.
But it's not an elegant zero trust implementation.
No, not at all. And so what we did is we designed a system that can actually securely provide what we call a step down token, which means it's a restricted version that is only authorized to access certain parts of the system for extended periods of time. So instead of having a 24-hour admin key that could access everything,
role-based,
you can have a role-based thing that says this AI agent can have 7 days of access for this one particular job of processing this one specific invoice and doing everything that it needs to do in that time frame to accomplish the task, but only updating the following 3 fields. And so you can get super granular and controlled around any action across any system. And we actually built it to be completely flexible, where if you wanted to use it for something totally different, you could do that. And we'll talk more about that on a later episode. But the cool thing about that is now you can have the industry ideal security, which a lot of enterprises aren't able to adopt today because of that kind of limitation, where you need a longer job runner and there isn't a way to manage it. We've solved.
Well, the other thing, then we had a conversation a couple of days ago with our LT, and Joe, who was on one of the podcasts. He said the hardest thing, and this has always been app modernization, refactoring code for zero trust, is like sometimes you just can't do it. It's not worth the cost.
Mm-hmm.
And so, as you take these, and we talked about being a world where we've been lucky because we're kind of a native AI company, and we're helping companies kind of bridge that gap. Same thing with zero trust. It's very hard to, if you truly are at the gold standard of zero trust, there's workarounds that you have to do in these big corporate environments because you can't lock down everything.
That breaks your security.
it breaks it. So that was a fascinating discussion. And I do think that that in of itself could be a whole security
Oh
podcast.
yeah, we should definitely do that. That'd be maybe not for the whole audience, but certain people would be very
Well, we'll
interested.
just preface it for all the security people, and we have to bring in the big brains on that one so
Oh yeah,
they
for
can talk.
sure.
But Stephen, he loves that, and probably the guy that helped co-create that as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. So I think that, it's things like that that tie back to the security of the overall system and what it's going to take to actually have an AI that you can trust. Because to your point, it's not just the model, it's everything built around that IT system holistically that is going to drive. And here's the crazy thing. If we get to the point soon, and I think it will happen soon, like if we assume that this AI sentient thing that we were talking about in that X space a little bit ago is real, pretty soon I could have 1,000 AI salespeople selling on my company's behalf, doing an amazing job and generating a ton of revenue. And that could
And
be
updating the CRM dynamically with the pipeline forecast and
yeah,
everything just
everything.
happening.
And that could be the entire foundation of our business holistically, where we're making $1 billion a year with this 1,000 agent AI sales force. And if that breaks or is compromised, our revenue could evaporate, or you lose like half of it because the
Oh,
system goes down.
you talking
Right.
about they would talk about protect your brand, your image. It takes years to develop an image and brand, and it takes minutes to lose it.
Mm-hmm.
That's an example of just, okay, we're in trouble now. And so that's why the power is there. But again, the trust in giving the reins more over to those agents, you have to be very, very careful.
Yeah.
We call crawl, walk, and then maybe run. But
Yeah.
I would say back to always have governance and checks and balances to that. So
Yeah.
I do think there will be systems that need to monitor AI systems. That will probably be a whole and there's things about companies like Dark Trace and others that how do you manage or monitor the systems of the systems? So there's like a monitor for the AIs, like a general manager to make sure everyone stays in line.
Yeah.
But that I do think is coming our way, and we will need to have that. The other one thing, and I know I want to get to one last topic, and then we'll probably pause this one and save it for the next one. But you also have made some progress recently because we had the tech demos about AI at the edge,
Mm-hmm.
running it at the edge. Progress is going fast there as well,
Oh yeah,
and
it's
it's real
super
time
cool.
engineering because what it could do even a few months ago was not what it can do now.
Yep. So my tech team, they did something really cool this last week. They can now run a fully integrated AI retrieval augmented generation pipeline RAG directly in the browser with no containers, no code, no nothing. You simply go to the page, you upload your document, and everything will run locally on that device with no outbound network traffic.
Air
So
gapped in
yes,
theory. For
yep,
those that are in those environments that care about that, that could be an
yep,
implementation.
huge. And the coolest thing about it is it's so efficient. You can uh, uh, go through an index and do that retrieval vector search on 10 million records or entries, rows in the database in 1.5 seconds, which is an insane speed. I mean, that's like, you could think of it like 10 million paragraphs of text in 1.5 seconds, and finding the right three out of that 10 million that will deliver your answer. And so there are tons of use cases. I mean, there are use cases for that at the edge with things like medical security and just general individual computing. If you want to have something that's distributed that has your company's valuable information in it for things like HR policies and whatnot when you're onboarding an employee, that could all be done locally with their benefits information or anything that would be considered like more sensitive employee data that you didn't want to have the AI have distributed access to. But of course, then there are the government use cases for that technology as well. You could imagine having a scenario where a hard drive is acquired and you want to extract intelligence from that hard drive. You could plug that hard drive in, run that indexing, and access, whatever key information may be on there, or query it in, a matter of minutes to set it up, and then, a couple seconds to actually extract that information, all with no code. So it's a fascinating time. There's a whole lot more, and maybe we talk about it more on the next one too, but the space is moving very fast.
I was trying to get one of your Fabio images because I was going to put it as a Zoom backdrop for our next team meeting, but you took them off too fast.
I'm not giving those to anybody, Ethan.
I know. I was about to get them. I was going to use that as future. I was going to shame your future family with that.
Hey, I think they're great pictures. I mean, if I was, because you did the professional photography stuff for a while, and the amount of effort that I went into creating a couple like that when I was younger, it was enormous, because I was a creative, so I had to have like a fancy picture for my IMDb profile and things like that for all the movies that I did, and so it takes a lot of effort. Like, we're talking about hours to get one of those pictures, and now I simply sat in front of this camera. I did this with my head for a couple times.
You're totally teaching me that after this podcast, because I'm going to freak my wife out with some pictures. We are doing that. You owe me.
Oh man. And then like literally upload it and train the thing, and then you're good to go. So, yeah.
Well, the last topic, we'll wrap it on, but I'll let you take it because I don't even know where you wanted to go with it. But it's the last thing we were discussing about sleep and eight sleep and.
Oh yeah, because you mentioned what you were so tired. So,
oh gosh. So, hey, everybody out in there listening to this, there's sleeping when you're a teenager. It's sleeping in your 20s, sleeping in your 30s. It's easy. I mean, you can just sleep. I've never struggled with it. 40s, okay. Then you start getting up there, and sleep's hard. You've really got to work to stay asleep. I mean, I was just telling John, I was up late with my kid last night. And he's sleeping like an elephant that's been tranquilized. And I'm like waking up at the crack of dawn going, it's time to start the day, and he's just, I can't even wake him up. I'm like, must be good to be young. And so what were you pointing to?
So one of the best decisions that I made, and I'm not sponsored for this or anything.
Yeah, no affiliates.
That's a big difference. The 8 Sleep mattress cover that does the temperature regulation. I got it like 13 months ago. It's the best thing. I wanted it for a really long time, and I didn't get it. And I said, you know what, I'm going to try it because I hear so many great things. But it's one of those things where until you experience it, it's like
a gimmick.
Yeah. Is it really going to do as much as I think it's going to do? And the cool thing about it is if you want to, you can finance it. So it's like a $2,500 mattress cover, which is a ton of money. But
mattresses cost
over 2 years, you get it for $100 a month, which is $3 per night. And I'm totally going to spend $3 per night
for sleep,
better sleep. And so I got this thing, and it's phenomenal. So you can actually have 2 zones, one for you and one for your wife. And you can independently control the temperature, and it will adjust the temperature dynamically to optimize your REM sleep and your deep sleep throughout the night and keep you asleep. And so like if you like to sleep in a really cold environment, you can turn the water temperature down to like 70 or cooler degrees, which is like ridiculously freezing. Or in the wintertime, you can bump it up so you're sleeping on like a hot bed. So I would just say totally check it out, because if you need help sleeping, like that's
well, I trained my wife, like you train AI for the last 25-ish plus years, because there was no debate early, like it was like, gosh, she sleeps so hot. And I had to sleep on top of the covers, had the fan going. But over the years, I've been slowly bringing the AC down. And or now she's just like, oh, she's fine. But it took a lot of training.
This gets instant results. And then
it's like now she knows, now she can sleep at a piece. So don't let her hear this, because she'll immediately go buy one of those.
You got to get it. It's so good. You'll say, man, I can't believe I didn't listen to you sooner. The other thing though that you should do is glycine. It's an amino acid. It's in meat. It's in a bunch of things, but it's a nutrient amino acid that is one of the most common deficiencies that we as humans in modern society have, I'll do 6 grams of this stuff right before I go to bed. It's also sweet. It tastes like sugar. So like my mom will bake cookies with it and like put it in her tea as sweetener and stuff like that. So it's very versatile, but that also can help with sleep. So
Very cool.
there you
Well,
go.
we'll try it and maybe check in. Well, I'm not going to have that by next episode, but
Hey, you could. I mean, they ship
yeah.
it pretty fast. You got to do it, Ethan. Just do it.
No. So
All
I'm
right.
really, what I want to challenge one of these days, we're going to have a third guest and it's going to be an AI and we're going to have I want to, that X thing that was working, maybe in a few months,
Yeah.
we may have when we bring it on and have a podcast with a third agent.
Oh, that'd be fun. Yeah.
Try
That's a
it.
good idea.